Michael Malone's first UNC roster is now officially set, but here's the big question. Who's going to play?
This is Jonathan Holmes, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's great to be together. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. This episode's brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer this MLB season. Coming up on the show today, we are joined by our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes basketball team. They're in their first week of school right now. It's going on. Coach taught a class today as we record on Wednesday. Also, Coach is a 2-decade veteran of Carolina basketball school, more than 2-decade veteran at this point, which is Carolina's summer basketball camp. He's written a book all about it, Carolina Basketball School, History, Stories, and Drills. Go get your copy on Amazon today, or heck, reach out to him directly and he'll get you a signed copy of it. Great stuff there. Let me tell you where we're headed on the show today. Hey, what's up? This is Isaac cutting back in later. After Coach Rob and I had recorded, the news broke that the Tennessee case that was giving Cameron Fens eligibility through the injunction that had been granted, the NCAA had actually been granted a stay, meaning that Cameron Fens is currently now ineligible. That news broke after Coach Rob and I recorded, so we don't mention it on the show. We talk about Cameron Fens like normal. This is not over. We expect to hear more and an appeal and all of that, but just wanted to mention why Coach Rob and I don't discuss that when we talk Cameron Fens. I will talk about it on the Friday show, so stay tuned for that. All right, here we go. Right back to it. In segment 3, we got to continue to reckon with all of this eligibility and ineligibility going on. How should the ACC respond? Because as we record, they're talking about it on Wednesday. I want to get Coach's thoughts on that from like the ACC-wide perspective. Before there, though, now that Coach Malone's roster is set, which we officially got over the weekend, I want to know from Coach Rob, what would lead to the ceiling, what would lead to the floor. But the first one, I am going to make it very difficult on him today. I've already apologized. It's a 16-man roster. I asked Coach Rob to build an 8-man rotation. Yes, he has to cut this roster in half and cut it down. And Coach, I apologize. As we get into it, though, just a quick moment of levity. We mentioned last week on the show when Coach Rob wasn't here about the tragedy that happened to 2 Milligan bicyclists who lost their lives and several other teammates who were injured in a senseless accident that happened on a training exercise. And Coach, we talked about it on the show, but I know you weren't with us last week. You were on a trip right before the school year started. And so just want to share on behalf of me and the whole Locked On Tar Heels family, just our condolences and thoughts and prayers to the whole Milligan community.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a tough time on campus right now. I actually got to see one of the girls today who was airlifted out. She was on campus for the first time today, has broken bones in her face and stitches in her leg. And it's just a stark reminder how it could have been a lot worse. But the community is strong at Milligan. There's a lot of love. The parents have been unbelievable coming and spending time, and they went to the site, and God's good. And we don't always understand why things happen, but we trust him and he's faithful. And it just, hopefully we just bring our community even closer.
I love that. Thank you. Great words, great thoughts. There's no easy way to do it, so we'll just make a hard right turn into talking basketball because that's what we're here to do. But thank you for sharing that update, Coach. I know it's become a big national story that just about everybody has picked up, and so I know people have been wondering, and so I'm grateful for the update. Praying for you guys as you get into this school year and continue to wrestle with it. Here's what we're going to do. I have said to Coach, all right, my man, now that the Carolina roster is official, I keep using the wrong vowels. I said official. We had to start over. I just said official. It's official. I don't know why I'm not good at vowels. There's 5 of them. You'd think I could grab the right one. But your job, Coach Rob, is to build an 8-man rotation out of the 16 players on the roster. Yeah, I'm asking you to cut this thing in half. After we build the 8-person thing, I'm going to ask you, like, what were the toughest decisions outside of that top 8? Who's the most likely to break through? So there's your chance to get beyond it. But I'm going to hold your feet to the fire right here. This is not just, hey, who's your starting 5? But who is that top 8? Build it for me. And for those watching, I'm going to pull up the roster on screen.
You said top 11, right? Isn't that what you said? Top 11?
Top 9.5. We'll average it out. So you're going to have
here's the great thing about it. It's tough because there's so much talent. And I've had teams where you're sitting there saying, well, let's sit down and go through our top 8, and we get to 6 and say, I'm not sure we can get past 6. There's definitely a lot of talent and a lot of guard play that I think. Let's start. Terrence Brown Jr. is going to play. He's going to play a lot. Whether he plays 1 or the 2 or whatever they decide to do, he's going to play a lot. He's going to play a ton. And I made this comment already. He's going to be a leading scorer. Some people are like, how do you know that already? He is a scorer. He's a mentality scorer. He's going to try to, every time he touches it, he's thinking about scoring the basketball. He's going to take more shots than anybody else. I still believe he's going to be, unless obviously something tragic goes wrong with, either attitude or getting hurt. But he's a great kid. I don't see either one of those hopefully factoring into it. But he's going to be your scorer. Matt Abel, obviously, love him. You got to have a shooter. You have to be able to have somebody knock down shots. He's obviously going to play, and I think he'll play a lot. Neo, Avdalas. A lot of people talking about him playing the 1. I like that idea. Because it takes Terrence Brown off the ball and allows him to be more active catching and attacking after bringing the ball across half court. Those 3 guys I think are obvious. Jarin Stevenson, to me, obviously the most veteran, which sounds funny because he hasn't been here that long, but the veteran, stability, stabilizing force on this team. He's going to play a ton. There's 4, so those are the easy ones, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't think
let's pause there, because I'm right with
Sure.
you. I think that's the easiest 4. That's what makes sense. Did you have any waffling about any of that quartet, or was that just pretty cut and dry? That's it.
Those are really easy, I think. I don't think anybody could argue with those 4.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't either. Okay, so how then, as you went from there, how did you start processing where to go next?
Well, you have to put a big in there somewhere. And it just depends, again, how they play, how they practice. Are they healthy? Who's going to be able to step up in that 5 spot? I don't think Cameron Fens would come to Carolina if he didn't feel like he had a legit shot to start. He is, again, most veteran guy in that mix. It doesn't necessarily mean he's got to play 30 minutes a game, but he's going to be on the floor just because of his experience, his toughness, his size. The big complaint about everybody before he got there was that the posts were all too skinny. There wasn't not enough beef. Well, he's beef, and he's big and he's strong. And even if he doesn't start, he's going to play. He's going to play minutes. I think he'll play significant minutes, and I think he could start. But then you get into, is Keita ready to play right away? He is an NBA talent. He's obviously ranked very high. What's up with Samodurov? I haven't heard much about him at all. He was at camp this summer. He didn't do anything. He wasn't working out. He just, but those are guys that I think could potentially, all 3 of those guys could be in a rotation. And if that happens with those 3 bigs, along with Jarin, kind of takes over the 4 and 5, then you got Maximo Adams, who I was very impressed with him. And he's going to play unless he just has a hard time learning system stuff and really adapting to the coaching style of the new staff. I think that would be my final 8 right there. I think those bigs are going to have to play. Keita and Durov will both play, and that would be my 8. I obviously would like to talk about some other options here that could be possibilities.
I think that what's interesting to me about this, I said quartet a minute ago, so I'll say octet here. I think that's the proper grouping number. Is it's the uncertainty of the front court and what they will each be able to do that almost forces your hand here to make so many of them the front court players, right? Because Fens is not a 3-point shooter. He's the guy that's going to be in the post, is going to bang, is going to set screens, all that. Keita is your defensive juggernaut, the dude that, just projects to be an elite defender. And then Samodurov is the guy that can stretch out and shoot it a little bit and do a multitude of things at the 4 spot. And so you almost need that depth. And then what I like about you adding Maximo Adams is he's kind of this hinge guy between the wing and the front court and can do a little bit of everything. And so I think including him in this group of 8 gives you a little bit more lineup flexibility. And so, Coach, I know it was a difficult process, but this makes a lot of sense to me. Is that kind of where you were at, what I've just laid out?
Yeah, I think Maximo Adams is that X factor who can, let's not put him in a position. He's a basketball player. Put him on the floor, and I think he can play multiple positions and just give him some minutes. And he's talented. He's young. Let's just go play with him. I mean, just get him some minutes and let him go. I really, again.
So where did you struggle? That's the question. Where did you struggle?
I didn't see the big guys play. Obviously, Fens wasn't there this summer. I've seen enough film on him to know that he can play. But that's the biggest question. I think the 4 we talked about earlier are pretty obvious. I think Maximo is going to play because he's so talented and he's got a huge upside, in my opinion. It really depends on those three posts, but I think that's how I see things early on. And then, of course, whoever plays better. And this conversation we met with our team for the first time last night. I've got one guy that I know is definitely going to start right away. He's my returning, leader and everything else. Everybody else is fighting, and that's how everybody else on this roster should feel. You're fighting. You're being evaluated every time you walk in the gym.
Man, that's a lot. So then, what I'd like to do, time-wise, is go ahead and carry on. And I know we're going to have our ceiling floor conversation in segment 2, but I want to start that segment, Coach, by looking at who were the names that just missed the cut? Who are you said earlier, you joked like, oh, did you mean top 11? Like, so that tells me that you've got 3 that were right there on the cusp of making it, but just barely quite didn't. So that's where I want to head next. And we'll have that conversation coming up in just 1 second. Right after I tell you about Indeed. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs, like skills, certifications, and location, so less time is spent searching and more time is spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In fact, in the minute that I'm talking to you, companies just like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to their worldwide data. So whether it's deadlines piling up, too much on one person's plate, or trying to scale something quickly, the right candidate can completely change how a team operates. And that's why getting in front of qualified candidates matters. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. That's less stress, it's less time, and it's more results. So when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of our show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So go there right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked on Tar Heels. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, Coach, let's keep having this conversation. I had you build an 8-man rotation for this Carolina team who you thought kind of gives Carolina the best chance to win out of this thing. But inevitably, because of the depth of the roster, as you said, there's some of these that it's like they're going to get playing time and they're going to force their way in. So I'd love to hear from you. Who were the toughest decisions as you were starting to process all of this?
Yeah, I think the toughest one for me is just Kevin Thomas. I really like him a lot just, again, another utility guy who could play multiple positions. He's young, he's talented, he's athletic. He's the type who could also just kind of take off. And you're going to have to give him some minutes early. That's what those non-conference games are for. But to be able to throw him in the fire early, too, I'd love to see what he can do. Obviously, the Isaiah Denis, Jaydon Young, that's going to be a huge battle, I think, in practice every day. I hope those guys like each other because they got to go at each other every day and still walk off the court as teammates. But I still think Jaydon's probably a little bit better scorer. I think Isaiah's a better shooter. I don't think either one of them are a true point guard. So then it comes to who's your backup point guard. If they do start Neo at the point, does that mean Terrence Brown could be your backup? You just kind of alternate those guys. When one comes out, the other one just slides over. And Brizzy is kind of intriguing to me because obviously it's not a whole lot of film. He did not play against high level competition, but it was still Division I competition, and he's just a tough kid. So I think that he could get some minutes at that backup point guard. And let's not forget Malloy Smith. I mean, I know he's Kenny's kid, and everybody thinks that that's why he came to Carolina just because, it's kind of that, following his dad, but he can play. I just love to see him grow, and he might not be ready right now, but I'd love to see him second semester. Yeah, I think he's going to be comfortable. He'd be a different player, and maybe he sneaks some minutes in at the end too. Who knows?
Man, coach, there that's the thing is it's not some of these rosters we've seen where beyond player 12, everybody else is walk-on level. There's guys that whether they're ready now or developmentally going to be ready in a year or two, there are 12, 13 guys on this roster that could find their way there. And I think that's part of why I wanted to force you to do this exercise, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And so, yeah, very curious to hear how this is going to play out, or watch how it's going to play out, I guess, because we'll see it unfold before us on screen or in the Dean Dome or elsewhere if you're watching. By the way, I want to challenge you all, our audience, with this exercise as well. Why don't you carve out who you think the 8-man rotation might be? I guess in part of this too is we don't know how Coach Malone is going to handle this. What sort of rotation will he have? Will he cut it down to 8? Will he use 9, 10, 11? We don't know yet because he's not been a head college basketball coach. That's part of the fun of this exercise. That's part of the mystery. Now, Coach, the other side of this is I want to look at, now that we've done this exercise and now that we have the roster in totality, I want to look at the ceiling and floor for this team. And so here's the question I'm going to ask you about the ceiling. If Carolina winds up being significantly, keyword there, better than people expect this season, what will have been the reason, or perhaps who will have been the reason?
I think the very first thing that's still the big question mark is how good the post players can be. So if Fens is the answer, or if Keita decides, can play major, those questions are still the biggest for me. And if they're going to go, Elite Eight, Final Four, national champs, whatever, that's the biggest area for. I think we know what we got with Terrence Brown Jr. I think you know what you got with Matt Abel. Know what you got with Neo. You know what you got with Jarin. The biggest question is, how is that 5 spot going to really? And if it's the quality that we think we have talent wise, and they can develop that talent, I think they could and they start playing together. Still trying to figure out who that leader is going to be. To me, I honestly think it's going to be Terrence Brown Jr., in my opinion, because he's got the attitude, he's got the game, and your leader usually has the ball in his hands on the floor. And whether he plays the 1, 2, or 3, it doesn't matter. He plays the 4, 5, whatever. He's going to have the ball in his hands. I don't care where you put him. He's gonna find a way to get the ball in his hands a lot. So I think that's where that leadership comes in.
So yeah, it's very. I like kind of the 2-part answer there that you gave. If I can sum up what I heard, was really the test of this thing is going to be the 5, because we have a pretty good understanding of what Jarin is at the 4, with Samodurov, competing with him at that role. While we haven't seen this backcourt trio together, I feel like we know what that's going to be. And so the ability of Keita or Fens or both to really do it at the 5 could raise that ceiling. And I feel like fully it's Keita who has that higher ceiling of the 2, while Fens raises the floor. And so that's encouraging as well. But with the leadership aspect of it with Terrence Brown, he's your end of shot clock guy. And so in some ways, the answer to that, that question I posed is, yeah, because Terrence Brown is everything you needed him to be. And he learns how to play defense as well, because that's probably the big bugaboo with him coming in. Is that fair?
Yeah, very fair. I did my internship with the Mavericks, and that's when Dick Motta was coaching. And the last thing he would say is, players make plays, go make plays. That's what Terrence Brown Jr. is. He's a player. He just makes plays. And your point about late shot clock, end of half, end of game types, he's going to be able to make, doesn't mean he has to score, but he's going to be able to break down a defense. He's going to be able to create something for a teammate, or he's going to be able to finish himself. So those are the type of things I'm looking for. The leadership, who can make plays, and then those post position, I think, is going to be really, really critical to see. And I could see maybe Fens takes the lead starting early, and then when Keita gets more familiar and with the team and playing, could see maybe he could get more minutes as the season goes along.
So with the floor, is it as simple as the flip of that? Like if I said to you, Coach, we're sitting here in late February or March wondering why this team never clicked. What do you think went wrong? Is it as simple as nobody took the 5 by the horns?
I think part of it is how it's such a bright stage. You're playing at Carolina. The only thing that really concerns me is how do those guys, especially the new guys, how do they react to being under the bright lights? One of the things I like about Maximo Adams is I think he's going to fit in great. I don't think the bright lights are not going to affect him at all. That's why I think he could play a lot as a freshman, because I think he's used to being the guy and he's used to having the spotlight on him, and I think he's very comfortable there. I'm not sure about the other guys. How's Fens going to be, playing in the Smith Center compared to playing, and obviously arena's a lot smaller and just not as much attention, and being on national TV every night. It's different than where he's been. And I know that's been an issue with some guys in the past, but everything I've heard about him, I don't know him. Everything I've heard about him is he's just a tough kid, and he's just going to mesh very well. So, but if you're looking towards the negatives, that's the kind of thing I'm worried about. It's just how do you react to being on the highest stage that there is in college basketball?
And the thing with that is you've got so many question marks in that regard, so many guys that you need to hit their ceiling. And again, that all goes back to, I said this earlier this week, why I love that Carolina has got a lot of depth, because let's be honest, not everybody's going to hit. And some guys might hit harder than you expected them to. And that's what we're waiting to see. And that's why I love the versatility and the capability. And we'll see how it all comes together. Hopefully, Cameron Fens, the lights are not too bright. I love how you said that, Coach. Now, we want to zoom back out from Carolina to the whole landscape of collegiate athletics, because the SEC is making some very bold statements on Tuesday and Wednesday about what they're going to do to teams that are taking on players who have been on an NBA roster or were drafted or something like that. So my question to Coach, how should the ACC handle this? Should they follow suit or do something different? I'll ask him about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel's giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's super easy to play. You just make your free pick for who you think is going to hit a home run in their game. And if you're right, you're going to receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games. So whether you're following your favorite team, keeping an eye on matchups across the league, every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. I've been saying it. My pick for this is my Atlanta Braves guy, the first baseman, Matt Olson, who has been on a tear. You want to get into that with Daily Dingers? Maybe you want to look at Carolina's game against TCU on Saturday, where the Tar Heels are 7.5-point underdogs. Maybe you think they can stay within that number, or heck, win it outright. Get in on this right now. Join the action at FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Coach, it has been a whirlwind of an offseason when it comes to eligibility, and things have not gotten slowed down here at the beginning of the school year, where players like RJ Lewis at LSU just received an injunction over the weekend from a court in Louisiana. And then on Tuesday, the SEC basically comes out and says anybody who has entered the draft and didn't appropriately withdraw, or was on an NBA roster or G League roster, or signed some sort of contract, they will not be able to play in the SEC. That's going to apply to Mark Mitchell as well. Then on Wednesday, they came out with some possible punishments, including half-season suspension for a coach, reduction by 50% of that sport's operating budget, and revocation of voting rights in the SEC. Coach, this is crazy and a mess, but I if the NCAA can't stand up, I personally like the conferences doing it. Are you in line with that or no?
Why is the NCAA not doing something? I mean, I guess that's more my
question.
Yes. It's unbelievable, but I'm old school. I remember when they actually had amateurs in the Olympics, and I remember how big that was, especially to Coach McClendon. He was the assistant coach in the 68 or 72 Olympics. And he was so upset when they started allowing professionals to compete, because it's amateur. Olympics is supposed to be amateur, even though other countries were not. Well, this is, to me, is the same thing. These got to be amateur kids. They're not professionals, even though they are getting paid now, unlike professionals. I think it's good. I'm going to play devil's advocate with you a little bit here, but I see the SEC doing it, the Big Ten's doing it. What if the ACC decides not to do it? Wouldn't that not be good for the teams who now obviously have an opportunity to get some of these players that nobody else would get? Do I think it's right? No, I don't. I think it's wrong. But why would they be having discussions about this if there wasn't an option different than what they're already talking about? I would think that if you're the ACC and you said, okay, we're gonna jump on board, they would just make a decision. Yeah, we're gonna do the exact same thing, and maybe the punishments are different or whatever. Maybe that's why they're meeting. But to me, this is all nonsense. If you sign a contract, you declare for the NBA, you're not an amateur anymore. So you've got to, you've made your decisions. You need to move on, and there's no coming back.
That's such an interesting devil's advocate thought. Like, as the ACC has been trying to catch back up to the Big 12 and the SEC in some personnel ways and things, it's like, that's interesting, Coach. I had not thought about that angle, but let's zig while everyone else is zagging could be a thing. Now, as Coach and I are recording this on Wednesday to timestamp it, it is currently 2:01 p.m. Eastern time, and we need to timestamp it because, as Coach alluded to there, the ACC is meeting on Wednesday, and likely later on Wednesday, they'll probably let us know what they're going to do, how they're going to approach this. So we need to keep our eyes and ears open for that. But ultimately, Coach, I'm with you. I think it just doesn't make sense. You as you said, you've made your decision, you made your bed, now you got to lie in it. Like for RJ Lewis in particular, it's like, dude, no, there's no coming back from this. But Coach, I guess at the same time, I also understand why he would want to, because at LSU, who doesn't have much of a roster, he could potentially make millions of dollars to set up his future, his family's future, and all of that. So while I don't agree with it, I can understand it, why he might do that. Does that make sense, the differentiation I'm making there?
Oh, it makes sense for him 100%. And obviously Will Wade would love it too, which is another reason why we're happy that, they came down the way it is. But it doesn't make, he had his opportunity to make his millions.
Yeah.
And he made his choices, and that's part of life too. You have to deal with that. But it's not like he can't make money overseas somewhere, because he's obviously talented enough to make a lot of money somewhere else. But I just don't like where college basketball is going at that level. It just doesn't make sense. And even with the 5-year stuff that's going on now, the NAI is in the midst of making decisions for next year. And I've, again, been doing this a long time. I like the way it's been. I like that the NAI has been different. And they're talking about doing the exact same thing, which the NCAA has been doing, and then everybody's the same. And sometimes that makes sense. And sometimes I like the fact that the NAI could be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad for the guys. I know it's a tough break, but I do think the ACC needs to make a decision, make it as quickly as possible, so that everybody get on the same path.
Yeah, because while I think your devil's advocate thing that you said is a smart idea, yeah, it seems like the wise thing for the Power Four conferences to do, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, is to just be aligned on the same thing. Because as we've talked about, Coach, so much, getting out of this wild west and having some parameters. Well, if the NCAA can't figure out things, I'll just call it at the federal level, then maybe these conferences can figure out things at the state level, if I can make that kind of analogy there. And if they could be aligned and do the same thing, that at least gives us some semblance of consistency. And then maybe the other 27, 28 conferences fall in line and do the same thing, whether it's the Pac-12 or the Big East or whomever it is. I don't know, but that feels like maybe a path to some clarity here.
Yeah, the consistency's got to be, in my opinion, got to be, at least for those, the Power Four have to be on the same page. I think we're just, as much as it is already the Wild West, it would cause absolute chaos if somebody decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah. So we'll see if we have any rogue conferences here, which again, Coach, to your point, kind of makes some sense. What if we could grab RJ Lewis and Mark Mitchell and Seth Trimble and others who are currently not eligible, man? It's a lot to think about and take in for sure. All right, Coach, this has been a super fun conversation. A lot of interesting things. We'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think the ACC should do? And man, it's going to be, it changes by the hour and it's so nuts. All right, Coach, on tomorrow's show, we're going to get ready for Carolina TCU, the first football game of the college football season. That'll be noon Eastern on Saturday, so make sure you tune in for that. Of course, we will go live after the game on Saturday to unpack all the action. Maybe Carolina can get off to a 1-0 start against TCU. Going to be tough, but we'll see what happens. If you are not already following Coach Rob on Twitter, let me encourage you to go do that right now at Coach Rob Buffs. If you've not already picked up one of his books, please go do so right now. You can find it on Amazon, or again, you can reach out to him directly. If maybe you want a signed copy of the book, he can get you squared away there. Coach, we're going to continue to be in prayer for you and the whole Milligan community. Thanks again for sharing kind of the update there. And man, continuing to pray for and think of all those families affected as well. If you've not subscribed to Locked on Tar Heels on video and audio, please do so now so you don't miss a second of the show. We'd love for you to always be locked in with us. We are about 200 people away from having 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. So this is my big push right now. Go tell your friends, your family, whomever, bring them in. Maybe Coach's dog Rosie can subscribe on YouTube as well, and that'd be the way to go. We're going to get Rosie in frame here, I think, in a second. It looks like that's what's happening. Yes, I love it. If you're not following us on the Locked on Tar Heels Discord, that link's in the show notes, as is the link for the Everydayers Club. Go check it out right now. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We're going to talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.